Today we're talking about discoverability, and I'm really excited to continue the conversation from the conference a couple weeks ago. We're going to get a little more detailed, and seeing that we've got mainly wineries and partners on this call, it's going to be very specific to how we stand out with respect to one channel, and that's digital. Because with digital, you're going to see there's a lot of efficiency, there's scale, there's the ability to test in real time. There's a lot of benefit, and we want to really focus there on how we can help your brand be more discoverable in a crowded market like Iowa. So here we go. You might already know this, but over 50% of all the internet traffic last year was by mobile phone. And that might not surprise you, but when you think about that, we have businesses that are full of computers, desktop, laptop. You're working on your computer basically 6 to 8 hours a day, let's say. So even with all of the business internet traffic, over 50% was mobile. Now, this is pretty staggering, but the point is that the brands that are trying to find you are trying to find you on mobile, and we really can't avoid that anymore. The discoverability aspect of mobile is incredible. Brands have been built just by way of a mobile campaign, social presence, things like this. And again, we can't avoid it, but we have to know how to strategically use it. It's not just enough to have a website that looks pretty good on mobile. It's about the content that's on that website. It's about making yourself easy to find, not only geographically, but in this crowd of other wineries and competitors inside and outside of the industry. You're not only competing with wineries, but you're competing with bars, restaurants, breweries, distilleries, other entertainment venues. We talked a little bit about this in the conference, and that was that you really want your goal to be to replace every single current customer you have with 3 more. And that's aggressive. I'm not going to lie. It's what you need to do now in order to really accomplish any of the sales goals that you're looking for the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. It's so many people right now have so many options, you can't count on the loyalty of a single consumer anymore. It's just a sad fact. So with that as really a baseline, I wanted to set the tone for what we were going to accomplish today. What we're going to see, and also a lot of this will be in the workbook that you get from me after the fact, it's understanding what digital channels are available, how they're being used by customers, as well as the brands that are trying to connect with them and engage. There are really 6 tweaks that we're going to suggest to your existing mobile presence in order to give you ramped up discoverability. And these things happen almost immediately, and they're completely within your grasp. And then lastly, we want to talk about the content calendar idea. And call it what you will, it's really just a plan for creating content over the month and doing so on a consistent basis across all of your channels to really promote that brand message that you've worked so hard to shape. Now, you saw a little bit of this, and you may have gotten some backgrounders from Nicole, but if we didn't already meet, that's me, Scott Colby, and I work for a company called Market Your Craft. we have a lot of opportunities to work with great companies, big and small, across the spectrum of alcohol. And it's been fun. Alcohol is an amazing industry and it's changing every single minute of every day. And to be a marketer in that space is just really cool. However, it's very challenging for the clients that we're working with to stand out in that space. And so we've had to reinvent ourselves and evolve with marketing in order to give our clients the most proven and successful tools for differentiating themselves. So we've got a group of people who do that nationwide, and we're, again, certainly happy to be a part of this group. And with that, I always have a couple of fermentables going, and today it's bourbon barrel aged coconut pecan porter in the corner, and then I tried my hand at a Chilean Malbec. I got the juice from a local store, and I I mean I love it. I love the entire industry, and as I told you before in the conference, I feel like you have to understand it at the producer level in order to market it correctly. So part of my time professionally was spent as an assistant brewer for BJ's Restaurants, and I've also worked in wine and spirits, dabble in it as a hobby on the side. I'm gonna check real quick to see how we're doing. TK, I certainly appreciate that. I'm in. If I could send it to all of you, trust me, I would. Maybe the next time I'm in town. Megan as well. Thank you. All right. So, what exactly is digital media? A lot of people have a bunch of different definitions, and you're probably well aware of this. And again, just chat in the panel if I'm way beneath you folks on this. There are a lot of different choices in digital. And if you've ever worked with an agency or been approached by an agency, they probably have a laundry list of things that they can do for you and budgets that they can put together for search engine marketing. And all of these things are very valid and also very valuable. However, we want to do it on the cheap before we have to pay for it. What I mean by that is we want to get our message right, and we want to know that our message is right before we amplify that message with paid advertising. Now, depending on where you are with your wineries or your partners, you may already be using paid advertising, or you might have budgets for these types of digital initiatives. However, in this presentation, we're really going to just start with the baseline of what you control yourself, which is your web presence. And we're going to dip our toe a little bit into social. So you're probably familiar with organic search. It's jumping on Google and asking for the latest sports scores or weather. Now, email is pretty straightforward. Not everybody is doing that from a brand perspective. We can always talk about this, but we love MailChimp. If you haven't used it already, MailChimp is free up to 2,000 subscribers, and email newsletters are not dead. So if you're not using an email service provider right now, it's worth considering. Paid search, again, an opportunity to budget for keywords. And if you want to own a particular keyword in a geography, anything with respect to a very specific niche group of people or demographic, like males, females, certain age ranges, these things are entirely possible, and you've probably dipped your toe in them direct. Now, this is an opportunity for anyone, any site, any referral to link directly to your site. A lot of times this is not paid. It's just cross-link traffic or reciprocal link traffic. Social media, I don't need to explain that one, but it's so valuable to get access to your accounts if you don't already, and use them to aggressively promote traffic to your website when you can. Affiliates affiliates are an opportunity to pay other sites to either generate sales for you on your behalf and then pay you a portion, or you can pay a commission for referral traffic, links, and or sales. Referrals really fall into a social media category, and that people who are talking about you favorably are going to link to you. And so, and you can have paid or unpaid organic referrals that significantly drive traffic. And then there's content. And this is really the one that we're going to focus on today, because content right now, I would suggest, is the biggest opportunity for you to stand out from your competitors, because it's the story that people are looking for, and it's how you tell it. How you tell it by text, how you tell it visually through video. All of these things factor into your strategy with respect to a website or your social media. I'm going to stop real quickly. Just want to make sure everybody is tracking. Audio, video is good. Taking a look at the chat window, we haven't had any additional questions. Please raise your hand if something's not working for you. I don't want to get halfway through the presentation and somebody's missed it. We like to call this brand vibe, and the brand vibe is just that energy that you give to current customers or new customers. And to be able to capture that vibe is so very important right now, because again, it's you and thousands of other competitors. Call them peers because you're friends, I get it, but they are competing for your customer. So the brand vibe and truly unlocking or unleashing the brand vibe is an opportunity for you to connect with the right customer, the customer that's really looking for you to solve a need of theirs. And so this falls squarely within kind of that fourth fundamental of brand vibe, which is defining the content we're sharing. And what we talked about at the conference, if you were there, we talked a little bit about the brand story and how important that is, how it needs to be unique to you. We're going to talk a little bit more about that today too. And then we've got the vehicles that tell that story. And again, the vehicle that we're going to talk about mainly today is your website and the mobile version of your website. So we want to unlock your superpowers. Now, we're coming to the point where it's the 6 tweaks, and we're really excited to share these because, again, it's a tool that's completely within your grasp. There's an opportunity for you to make a change yet today on your website to make yourself more discoverable. And that's really what this is all about. It's about empowering you and your teams to own this, to be very strategic about it, to know that you need to take marketing very seriously in order to survive. And I don't mean to be dramatic, but you know as well as I do what it takes to keep the lights on. And if you're not competing and if you're starting to lose share, you start to question the viability of your business. Now, the 6 tweaks are designing for mobile, which is going to be fairly self-explanatory, using lifestyle photos, which I really enjoy talking about, the business statement, which may seem a little obvious to you, but I want for us to go a little bit deeper. Product pages. I have to say, all the research that we've done, I feel like this is one of the areas where the Iowa wine growers are sorely lacking. And it's a missed opportunity to just celebrate a product story in a big way with big voice and personality. So we're going to spend a little bit more time with that. Facility tour, again, the opportunity to invite a guest to experience the energy of the room, the incredible grounds that your winery sits on before they actually step in the door. This is going to give them a chance to commit and engage emotionally before they even arrive. Pretty cool. And then philosophy, it's going to seem a little heady, but it doesn't need to be. It's just how you do what you do and why you do it. So let's dive in. It all starts with a strategy, and it feels like many winemakers, other producers, distillers, brewers think about marketing and more specifically the website as an afterthought to product, as it should be. You have to have a killer product. You have to focus on your tasting room experience and have the best staff available. However, when it comes to marketing, you need to spend an equal amount of time, not necessarily energy, but you need to focus on the message that's being sent out. And that starts with just asking why. Why have a website? It's not just a matter of keeping up with the Joneses. We would suggest that there are 10, 15, 20 different reasons, business objectives, that you might decide to have a website. Could be to raise awareness, even recruitment of ambassadors, recruitment of tasting room staff, letting people know that you've got an active events calendar, whether that's live music or new releases, stomp parties, harvest parties. So whatever your objective, it's very specific to your winery, and not all wineries are the same. In fact, very few are when it comes to why put the time and energy and money against a website. We would just ask you to ask those questions so that you could, at least before spending any more time, heaven forbid, more money on your website, you're doing so for the right reason. And this is all in your workbook, so I hope that it makes it easier than taking notes. These are the kind of questions that we ask. So if we were to engage a client and the client says, I'm just not happy with the website. Okay, well, why? What are you comparing it to? What's your baseline? What do you expect? Your brand story, we dug deep in that topic at the conference, and having a brand story that you're very comfortable with and that's concise and compelling needs to be on your website, and it needs to play out, but you need to know what it is beforehand. Who's going to manage your content, whether it's internal or working with somebody outside? What are your goals? What brands do you really respect? These are the kind of questions that you need to ask yourself, because at that point, you're really thinking strategically. You're thinking strategically about the website and how it's going to propel your brand forward. And most importantly, how it's differentiated from every other wine in the state. And this is just a reminder that these tools aren't expensive. Granted, a website costs money. I get it. And any expense that's not put towards the different equipment or tasting room facilities or expansion to meet your goals otherwise for business, I get it. It's tough to set aside money. However, all of these things are within your grasp. All of these things that we're going to talk about today can be controlled by you. The first tweak is really just taking mobile seriously. Again, we had the stat up front about 50% of the internet traffic last year being by way of mobile. All right. So we put that behind us and we figure out how exactly does my website look on all the various different devices. This is something called responsive. If you're not familiar with the term, all it means is you look beautiful on a desktop, on a tablet, on a laptop, on a mobile phone, any internet connected device with a screen. It adapts to the screen size. And more often, that screen size is small. So, how does your website look on a mobile device? If you're really happy with your About Us story, or if your first page has exactly 10 paragraphs worth of copy in one photo, good on you. You have a lot of content there. I don't argue that that's bad content or it's not your story. However, it doesn't belong on mobile. The difference between what we would consider long form content and kind of shorter, snackable bits would be, does the customer looking at my website on a mobile device need to read this story? Or could they read the first paragraph of it? Do they need to understand this text? Or could they see a photo or a 6 to 12-second video to explain the same concept? Really, it's just a filter that you use when you're putting any content up there that sounds a lot like, if I were that customer, would I want to read this on my mobile phone? If I was looking for a winery, would I choose this winery because of this long form content? We have the ability to hide content on a mobile device. And this is exciting. Again, chat me if this is way beneath you and you already know this, but after looking at a number of your websites over the last couple of days, I think there's still an opportunity or a runway there. So you can program the website to hide or prioritize content for desktop versus mobile. You could show the very same page on desktop and show long form copy with 5 beautiful images of your tasting room and facilities. And then you could shorten that to the bare essence of what's needed for mobile with one beautiful photo or a replacement video and a paragraph worth of text that basically teases that consumer. That person looking at it on the phone only wants to engage with you long enough to get interested. They're not looking for that long story. If they want to research you, they'll take that home and take a look at you on their desktop when they've got the time, not when they're swiping. So if we're all on the same page, then if you're designing for mobile, we like 4 or 5 different tips or tricks, again, that you can immediately impact your own website and drive a lot more web traffic, which translates to tasting room traffic and sales. Optimize image and video. Optimize sounds scary or big. It's not. The point is that photographs nowadays from your phone are really, really fat. They're big. They take up a lot of space. And even though we've got high bandwidth accessibility to the internet and we can download things relatively quickly, don't expect your customers to wait to download a really, really huge photo, no matter how beautiful it is. So there are tools that actually reduce the number of colors but keep the same overall photo quality. The same thing is true with video. remember, they're looking at it on their small screen. They're not looking at it on their 4K TV in the living room, most likely. So to cut out some of those colors and reduce by 60, 70, 80% the file size just makes a much better experience. All right, enough geeking out on that. So clear calls to action, big buttons, these things make it a lot easier. You've experienced this on your own phone when you were ordering takeout or DoorDash or an Uber. Just imagine those apps, if they were clunky and difficult to use, you just wouldn't use them. Well, make your website easy to use, make it easy to navigate, make the calls to action very clear, help guide them through the site in a manner that you feel will help them get the most engagement out of it, however long the session. Think about mobile first. This whole thing is about mobile. You put a new piece of content out there, check and see what it looks like on mobile before even checking it out on any other device. Chatbots are interesting. If you're familiar or not, it's basically the idea of Drift or Facebook Messenger. If you're in Facebook, and most of the wineries I've seen do this, they have the auto pop-up for the Messenger, and that's great. It's an incredible customer service tool. Well, you can extend that same functionality to your website, and during business hours, it creates a more one-on-one relationship with that web visitor. And then just lastly, keep up to date with the tech, because it's changing every single day, and your customers are going to expect you to change along with it. Everybody hanging with me? WordPress. WordPress is what we use. It's what we like. It's because most of the wineries, distilleries, breweries that we work with are do-it-yourselfers. And if you have a content management system like WordPress, you're able to do 90% plus of the work yourself before you have to hire it out to somebody else. Now, to really bring this close to home, we took a look at covered bridges, and while there are some areas of the site I think we could definitely shorten or create a little bit more efficiency, we had a lot of pluses here. It's made for mobile. It's got age verification, which was one of the only ones in Iowa that we saw. We really feel strongly about age verification, even though the argument is that it's easy to beat. The homepage was tight. The navigation was easy to use. Information about awards were there. And the tour was, while a little complicated, it was easy to go through, swiping left or right on those photos of the vineyard and the facility. So we really like the work that was done here. So good on you if you're in the audience. All right, no questions yet. Please stop me. Hey, Google, show me a winery tasting room near me. Now, the point with this is that Hey Google or Alexa has just become part of our vernacular. And if you were to show up on a tasting room near me, winery near me search, and they clicked on your link, imagine yourself as that customer. What would the first thing you would want to see be? If you're looking to go somewhere right now, I would suggest that you want to see lifestyle photos. Now, call it what you will. It could be staged, they could be natural, it could be customers, it could be models. However you do it, photos of people enjoying the experience at your winery are crucial and underutilized. For most of the wineries that we saw, to be honest, there are a number of wineries that have missed opportunity. How much fun customers have at my winery story because they're just not posting photos. if I were to be a customer with 5 options presented to me on a Google search of wineries near me, and I went to a homepage that didn't have at least 2 to 4 photos, I mean, it would be a real sell for me to take my friends there, to meet family there. So there are dozens and dozens and dozens of different scenarios for taking photos. If it's with a customer, just please do so with their permission. This doesn't have to be as formal as signing a waiver, but we have experience where a customer comes back and says, "Hey, I didn't authorize that photo and you're blasting it everywhere. I'd like to be compensated for that." That's literally about the last thing that you would want as a marketer, is to have that conversation. Tell you what, I'm going to go spend my entire year's budget on paying off this guy who's raising a stink. Large parties, food trucks, interaction with the guests, all of these things are just gold. And it's what people want to see. They're not seeing it right now for most of you. I'm not being critical, just being honest. This is low-hanging fruit, folks. So what we talked about at the conference is absolutely true today, and that is they want to see themselves in that photo. Not literally, but they want to have the experience that that photo is projecting. The energy, the excitement, the fun, the camaraderie, all brought to you by your brand. So don't waste that opportunity. Please, please, please use photos. And there are a lot of different ways that you can actually display them on the website, from frames to carousels. We have the social feed, which is an obvious one, events calendar, which we're going to talk about a little more, our story. Just take advantage of that real estate to show as many photos as possible, just like Madison County did. Now, there's just exciting photos, some good energy, categorized, easy to find. They are celebrating the people who have been at the winery, and the events and the weddings and the gatherings, and all of these things are very important, easy to find. I would recommend that some of them need to be a little further up in the experience and not hidden on a single page. However, they're really getting this right. I have a question. Customer shares a photo at the winery. Can we use it? Great question, Megan. So the answer to that would be best practice, no. I would always have at least an email tracking of them saying, yes, you can post it. And we've done that in a number of different scenarios with social. If we wanted to repost something that was tweeted to us or posted on Instagram or shared on Facebook, we just want that extra level of security that any additional reposting we do is okay by the original. Thank you for asking. And there was also Soldier Creek. And the reason we brought this up is event calendars are great opportunities to highlight lifestyle type photos. And even if this is a staged photo for the artist, it's fine because it's beautiful. The calendar is presented in an amazing way. If I'm not mistaken, it's probably a plugin for WordPress called the events calendar, and this is the paid pro version. And it's a best practice. Like if you're going to do a website calendar in WordPress, the event calendar is one of the best that we've seen. So yeah, awesome. So this is another opportunity to celebrate the photos. Don't miss out. So moving on, again, we talked a little bit about this, but it's worth reiterating that the website is the single biggest opportunity that you control to stand out from your competitors. And our goal, again, is to replace every single with 3 additional new customers. Now, if I were to ask you what business you're in, you might quickly dismiss me as, being some non-alcohol drinker. You're a winery, you're a producer, you're involved in the industry. That's the obvious. We would ask you to go deeper. And the reason you would go deeper is because a lot of people could say that they're wineries, just like a lot of people could say that they started in their basement as a hobby. What makes you different? If you start to ask why questions until you can't get any more granular, then you're starting to think like a customer, because quite frankly, it's not about getting anybody with a pulse in the door. It's about getting the right person in the door. And everybody has access to nearly perfect information, right, with the internet, if you believe that. But if you don't give them enough specificity of what they can expect once they get there, wine and otherwise, then they're going to disregard you. They really want to know what they're getting into before they get there, and if they have a particular style that they like, or if they line up with the philosophy or business practices from a sustainability or a sourcing perspective, if working and supporting local is important to them. These are their decision factors. The more that you talk about those, the more they're going to choose you. This is just an example to make it real. You can read it as you wish, but it was for an Asian craft beer company in Northern California. And we help them to really craft a statement that they're then celebrating on all their media. It's almost like your 6-second elevator pitch, right? If you were to talk about your winery for somebody who's never seen you before, what would you say? We like to put this on the footer of the website. We didn't really see a lot of examples of this, but the closest we could find was the wine house. And a mission statement is not really a business statement. You can take a look at the right hand and see that not all the questions are answered, but this is more than we saw with any of the other sites that we reviewed in prep for this meeting. So it's worth taking the time to answer these questions and get very specific in order to enable discovery for the right consumer, not every consumer, not a cattle call, but the right consumer. This is just today. I went and got a bagel and I thought, wow, see, they're even printing it on their bag. They could call this a mission, they could call it a vision. It doesn't matter. It's basically answering the same questions that we were just posing of you. We use the same time-honored methods that New York bagel bakeries have followed since the early 1900s. That's how they stand out. Bake in small batches all day long to ensure freshness. They celebrate it on every single bag that leaves the store. Product pages, spoiler alert, there was not a lot of storytelling going on in the websites that we reviewed for you folks. And there is just an untapped potential of voice and personality in the products. Bring it to light on the website. Imagine yourself being that ambassador talking to someone in person. What would you tell them about each one of your brands? The varietals, the style. If that's not coming out, if the reason for calling it what you did isn't on your website, this is free advertising for you. You need to take advantage of this. And we like to have dedicated pages per brand, per varietal. And this is not something that we saw. So take advantage of this. Talk about the brand. Talk about the color, the pairings, the awards. Give them opportunities to review. Share with their friends by way of social. And then again, a messenger bot where if they're deciding whether or not to visit you or buy from retail during business hours, they can ask you questions directly. These These are all, again, easy tools to implement, easy areas to improve that are going to have a marked difference in your discoverability, especially on social. We also have a website, discover.marketyourcraft.com, where we created a best practice website that employs most of these principles if you want to see it in real life. Still doing all right with questions. Quiet group. Facility tour. This is just like the lifestyle, but it's more internal to you. Show them the behind the scenes. Give them a walk through the vineyards with the winemaker or the team. Have some fun. Give them, again, reason to want to see it for themselves. There are dozens of ways you could do this, and not saying that drone footage or any of the 3D walkthroughs are necessary, but it just shows you how creative brands can be to try and attract customers and stand out from the rest of the crowd. Those customers know exactly what they're walking into, and they come prepared to have fun. I mean, isn't that what you want? You want them to expect the best, and then once they get there, you over deliver on that. Most of the wineries that we took a look at started with a photo gallery, and that's just fun. We have a question. Megan asks if the highlight spot on Instagram would be a good place as far as social goes. Product page on, I see. So what we like about highlights, and if everybody is or isn't familiar, if you post a story, a video on Instagram, that's a 24-hour thing, but you can actually take from the archive that same video clip and make it a highlight. And so the highlight, if I'm understanding Megan's question correctly, if you're doing a story by the winemaker on one of your particular brands, then sure, call that highlight wines or call that highlight new releases, and use the archived stories in short bursts to tell a continuous story about all of the wines from the winemaker's mouth. Sorry, have we been doing some QA too? My apologies, I didn't have both open. Hope that helps, Megan. Yeah, mobile users mute their audio when viewing. How do you design videos around that? Awesome question, Michael. Thank you for asking. So the best way to do that is to watch every single video without sound. And does it create the emotion, the connection that you're looking for? Does it give you the dew on the vines in the morning kind of experience? Does it show sunrise or sunset? Can you imagine yourself sitting at the table with that glass of wine in your hand, smiling at the person right across from you? These things don't need audio. They just need to be emotional. If you can see yourself in the videos that you're shooting, then you've won. You don't need audio in order to get that same effect. Hope that helps. All right, just to finish up strong and leave some room for time, I want to be respectful. Facility tour, we liked Oscar Carl's. I would have suggested maybe showing people in these photos. There's a certain emptiness that comes with showing the beautiful facility in its entirety without people in it. It shows what you could do with it, kind of like a new house. However, there's also a reason why sometimes new houses are staged to show what the man cave or the entertainment area or the kitchen could look like. So just take that into consideration. Great tour of the facility. Keep that up. balance it with a little bit of the consumer aspect of it. And then lastly, as far as the tweaks go, just talk about why you're in it, why you do what you do, what's important to you, what your moral compass is. If a consumer is shopping on things that are important to them, especially shopping local is a big one now. If that's part of their decision criteria, then celebrate that on the site. Make sure that the About Us or some other highly visible area of the site talks about your approach to winemaking, why this is important to you, why sustainability and sourcing factor into every single decision that you make every day. Those things you may take for granted, but the customer doesn't. This is how they're deciding whether or not you edge out a competitor who says the same thing. Now, the last piece is really the content calendar. And we talked a little bit about this in the beginning, and that's the opportunity just to have a consistent message. You could take a look at this from a social perspective. You could also look at it from a blog or the new release calendar or the event schedule. However you do it, just understand that customers who look at your brand and are trying to figure out whether or not you're a brand that they want to engage with are looking how often you update your content. That's a really important factor in their decision whether or not to engage with you. Social is very easy to do this, and it's also very easy to do it poorly. If you don't have a strategy, if you don't have a true north or what social posts should look like, then it can seem inconsistent and sporadic, and lots of puppy dogs and cute kid photos. And don't get me wrong, I love kids and photos of puppy dogs. However, how does it fit into your business strategy? What message are you trying to tell about your winery? Is it that you're completely kid and dog friendly? Well, good on you. If that's part of your content, then make sure to be consistent about it. So we have another question, looks like. Targeting millennials, is important to show men with beards in your photos? You know, it's an awesome question. And I think there's probably two schools of thought. It's not necessary, but everybody's talking about it. Realize that you can't build your brand on beards. Beards are trends. Your brand is deeper than that. And so if you're chasing trends in order to seem relevant, eventually people will see through that. So my answer to your question, Michael, would be, sure, you can show bearded people in a relevant setting, enjoying themselves at your winery, but not to the point where you're defined by it, because people will start to question why you do that. I hope that helps. Definitely not a scientist on that one. Again, if you read the articles, everybody says you need to feature those folks, but to do so in a heavy-handed way will work against you. Nicole loves that question. All right, so last slide for me. We like tools like Sprout Social, and Sprout Social gives our clients the opportunity to listen to what other brands are doing and to learn and to find their own context, to find their niche within the crowded market. Unless you're learning from your competitors, your peers, unless you're strategically thinking about how to give a different or send a different message to the customers that they're going after as well, then you're not going to get ahead. These tools also allow for consistent publishing. So again, if you're in a social space, there's recommended 2 to 4 posts a week at a minimum. Well, just like bearded men in photos, don't do it if it's not natural to you. If you don't have something to say, don't say it. But we would recommend that you probably have more to say than you give yourselves credit for. And so having a calendar helps keep that all in check. It also lets you measure the engagement of your posts. Are you doing it right? Did you figure it out? Did you crack the code? Have you grown your engagement, grown your followers? Are you getting more traffic to your website? Is all of that translating to more butts and seats at the tasting room? So important. You need to tie any amount of time and spend to actionable results. And so often we're just scrambling to get the day-to-day done, let alone thinking about strategically whether or not what I'm doing is working. Tools like Sprout Social help keep you honest and report not only for yourself, but report to the people, stakeholders in the organization. You know what? This is working. Let's add more money to it. Let's add more time to it. Let's give it more focus. Oftentimes, marketing vehicles are very challenged to produce that kind of quantifiable result. So again, we've got a page up on Market Your Craft if it helps you. And now it's time for me to say congrats, because you made it this far. You're still with me, and you have everything you need to go back today if you want and talk to your team about how you can immediately be more discoverable. All of these tools are within your grasp. You don't need an agency to do it. Something to consider is just the amount of time you're spending on marketing. We always suggest spend a little bit more time than you are now. Understand a little bit more the direct correlation between the time and money spent and the traffic in the door and how that affects sales ultimately. And it's addicting. You will continue to see return and you'll continue to feed the beast, but only if you spend the kind of time. Megan asked the question of Sprout Social, how is it different than using the insights? It's an awesome question, and I'm sorry that I skimmed over it, but Sprout Social basically consolidates all of the social in one tool. So it uses business insights from Instagram. It uses all the analytics from Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, and they bring more social channels online all the time, whatever channels are important to you. So it shows all of the Instagram engagement in the context of your overall performance for social, not just one-offs that you have to cobble together Excel spreadsheets separately from 3 to 4 disparate systems. I hope that helps. Hootsuite is another one that does this. Airtable is a free one that does this. So it's all about calendaring and listening, but from a single interface. Good question. All right. So if you were tracking along with me, we talked about the 6 tweaks that you could do yourself today, including design for mobile, using lifestyle photos, please use photos, creating a business statement. It's not as obvious as you might think. Taking a look at product pages. Good gosh, man. Whew. This is seriously low-hanging fruit for everybody. The facility tour, some folks have been doing it well. Others, we need to get on the board. And then philosophy, just making sure people understand the why behind your business. And some people have been asking questions along the way, but if they were holding off to the end, they can ask the questions now. Whew. Gerard, that was awesome. Gerard suggests that we make Iowa wines great. I certainly agree. And if there's anything I can do to help anyone, just please let me know. You've got my contact information. I've got yours. I'm happy to send our newsletter on a bi-weekly basis. It's not spammy. Hopefully it's good information that's really empowering for your teams internally. We try and give you the free tools that you need to do it yourself. Oh, Megan, don't even apologize. So worth putting a tour on Google Maps. It's a good question, actually. And I know that there are services out there that will do a Google walkthrough. And I understand that those services can be a little on the pricey side. So is it worth it? Sure. Google, there's no science or algorithm behind this. Google gives back more to brands that pay. And so if they see that you've done what you can to use the Google infrastructure and platform to promote your brand, they're going to do a better job of ranking you and prioritizing you. So sure, you would show up a little more. Whether or not it's worth the investment, that's up for you to decide. I would start with your own website and work out. Yes, Gerard, it is coffee in my mug. However, I plan on having a nice glass of wine with dinner tonight. Free, like photos. Not sure I follow you there. Oh, I see. So are you asking if we would recommend? Oh, I see what you're saying. I apologize. Yeah, if you can do that for free, for sure. It never hurts to have too much content up there, especially lifestyle photos. I would balance it. With right here, customers who have given us permission, enjoying themselves at our tasting room. Here's part of the tour. Here's part of the facility. Here are the owners and team having fun doing what they're doing. It's a sweet balance, but if you show the spectrum of engagement at your winery by way of photos, 6, 8, 10 photos at most, then that would be valuable use of your time and free. Then you're going to, of course, get additional photos that are submitted on your behalf from people who visit, and those will be tied to your business page as well, albeit consumer generated as opposed to generated yourself. Hopefully we answered that question. Perfect. All right. Well, it's 1 o'clock and everybody's been awesome. Thank you for playing along with this silent and no video presentation. If everybody wants to do video and audio the next time, we could try and figure that out, so long as nobody steals the stage too much. We'll get everything to Nicole sometime in the next day. I'm sure she'll send it out, and of course, everything is available at marketyourcraft.com/Iowa, and we'll look forward to the next time. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of the day.